So you want to be a better leader, yes? If you're still here, you said yes. So let's talk about evidentiary leadership. Because there's nothing better that I know of that takes the emotion out of decision making. And let's take that one for a minute. You're probably pretty emotional sometimes, aren't you? Would you agree? Yeah. You know, you care about what you do. Sometimes you get a little worked up. You're passionate. If you're the owner of the company, you're even more passionate. You've got a stake in this thing. I often say that people have a syndrome. It's called give a darn. And give a darn is all about wanting something really good for the company, for yourself, for everybody else. Well, that's when the emotions come into play. Yet, decision making is absolutely hampered when our emotions get in the way. Now, you're human. How do you turn those things off? You might be thinking, okay, Scott, you're suggesting I drink lots or take lots of drugs, and this way we won't have any emotions. No, I'm suggesting you keep your emotions in check. And the way you do that is you use evidentiary leadership. And all evidentiary leadership is a decision-making tool to make the best choice and take the emotion out of it. It's the who, what, where, when, why, how. It's just that simple. So let me just walk you through the steps. So, something happens and you need to make a decision. You look at the what. That's where we start. It's the first of the W's. What you saw, what you heard, what you experienced. Now notice that one right there, all right? If you're just looking at like a roving reporter, here's what happened, here's what I saw, here's what I heard, none of that is about emotion. It's about the facts. If we're going to make a decision, head a different direction, or fix a problem, if we base it just on the facts, what we saw, what we heard, what we experienced, or those we get involved, what they saw, heard, or experienced, we're now starting on a very factual basis. Now we move on to the why, but for just a moment. And let me tell you, this is really, really important. I don't know if you're like me, but I do analysis paralysis really, really well if I let it happen. I'll be the first one to admit I've done therapy. And I'm proud to be the man I am because of it. I think everybody could benefit because we all come and we're not exactly perfect. But we can become more perfect if we address certain things. And one of the things that I perfected in therapy is getting out of analysis paralysis. The therapist used to say, Scott, the why doesn't matter. What are you going to do? So think about it. Why something happened matters much less than what are you going to do about it. So that's why I say after you determine the what, you go to the why for just a moment, just so you have an understanding so you won't necessarily repeat that again. Now we move on to the how. How are we going to change this? How are we going to do it differently next time? Because we know the what, we know a little bit of the why, and that's all we need to know. Now we can look at the how. How are we going to move forward? This is a critical step because if you go from the what, the why, and you get to the how very quickly, you've gone from problem to solution, and that's where we want to be anyway. Now we move on to the who. Who contributed to this, and who's going to be responsible moving forward? You know, if somebody made a mess, they should be the one that cleaned it up, right? Well, not always. Maybe they're not the best equipped person to clean it up. So, who caused this? Who's responsible? Who's contributed? Whether it's a problem, an opportunity, a challenge, whatever it is. You then ask, okay, that's who it is. Are they the best person to move this forward, to solve this crisis, this problem, to do things differently? Pick the best person. It's not always the person who was involved in the first place. Finally, that leaves us the when. And the when is this due? When is this going to change? What is the deadline? The when is important because that creates the accountability. You know that you can look for milestones along the way of when this is going to be changed and by when, and see if it's on track, ahead, or behind compared to the when. That's it. That's all there is for evidentiary leadership. It's taking the emotion out of decisions and making the best choices based on the facts. It's the experience, it's what I saw, it's what I heard. We then make conscious choices just with a simple series of questions. Imagine what your life is going to be like when you take the emotion out. The decisions will be better, and the company's going to be better too.